everyone. Welcome to the Knowledge Podcast series hosted by the Broadcast and Film Magazine along with Adobe and the Broadcast India show. Today we will be interviewing Antara Lahiri, a prominent and well-known film editor from the Indian film industry. Antara has won major accolades and is a celebrated and acclaimed film editor and web series editor. Welcome Antara, and thank you for taking out the time for this chat with us. A little bit about Antara. She started off her journey in mass communication at St. Xavier's College in Kolkata, followed that up with a certificate, a diploma course rather in at FTII in film editing. And she's assisted on various films and web series, some of them being Gajini, Road, and more recently Mast Mein Rehne Ka, and also FOMO Shots Please, and as well as Delhi Crime Season 2. So with someone who's got that kind of a roster credited to her name, it's going to be a fun chat that we're going to have with you today, Antara. I'm seriously looking forward to that as well. So with Antara, what she also does is that she, in a way of giving back to the community, she also does a lot of workshops with the FTII and NID, making sure she's kind of making sure the next level of editors are getting the kind of knowledge that they need and they should get, especially with her expertise in the field. So what we would like to kind of start off with is a little bit about where you started from, and more importantly, how you got into film video editing.
Yeah.
Simply because when you started, it wasn't something that was very popular with the general public.
Yeah.
So just something about that would.
Yeah, so as you rightly said, I started in, I did my mass communication course in 99, I think, as early as that. And I was, at that point, just the third batch of that mass communication course. And it's just also, just to kind of contextualize how unusual it was to, even get yourself admitted to a course like that in Calcutta, late 90s Calcutta. I just kind of, I was at St. Xavier's College and I was going through the list of courses and I was applying for the English literature course and stuff. And I saw something called mass communication and video production. And I always kind of knew that I didn't want to do the traditional kind of studying for my graduation years. And then this just seemed like something which would be very interesting. And I'd always loved, everyone loves watching films now. And everyone kind of thinks, oh, it'll be nice. But then I think it takes a little bit of a leap to convince yourself and convince the people around you, especially at that time, that this is a viable option, to pursue. So, yeah, so then there was an entrance exam and blah, blah, blah. I did my 3 years of mass communication and video production. And again, the thing is, at that point, we didn't have social media. I think Gmail had just... we didn't have Gmail. We had Hotmail at that point.
It was,
and I was still learning how to operate a computer. I didn't even know how to operate a computer well into my college years. So I kind of enrolled in one small, one of those Gali Nukkad computer training courses. And that's how I learned even basic computers. And what's so interesting is that gentleman, he taught me something called Image Ready, right? And that I think used to come integrated with Photoshop at that point. So you could kind of create an image in Photoshop, then take it to Image Ready and animate it there and then bring it back into, that kind of workflow.
Early on technology.
Very, very, very. Yeah. So that's a little my first kind of introduction to Adobe in a sense. And we also had very basic introduction to a very early version of Adobe, of course, of which I have no memory because it was too much. It was very overwhelming. Also, yeah, because we were still cutting tape to tape at that point.
Yeah.
So that, and then from there, I kind of figured, okay, this is it. Now I have to find a job somewhere. So I tried a little bit of work in Kolkata. But again, Kolkata industry was at such a nascent stage that it was very difficult to figure what I want to do in that context, And the television space was very different from my aesthetic.
Yeah.
Even the film space, actually, the level of professionalism at that point was very, very low, because everyone was kind of working within their little tight, small circles and stuff. So I had to kind of look at moving out of Calcutta, and I applied to like a bunch of these production houses in Bombay. Got rejected, I think, by most of them because I mean, no one ever wants someone with no experience just showing up in Bombay.
Want somebody who is 20 years old with 20 years experience.
With 20, that's so true. That's so true.
Yeah.
So that is pretty much what I was fighting. And then I also see, because in the Mumbai film industry as such, and it continues to be that, where the people are very cut to cut about what they require from you and what do you bring to the table. And also for people who are coming from outside the city, paying rents and all of it becomes a factor. So you can't really do internships for long periods of time. So all those things were kind of things that I had to figure. And I was
basically.
Yeah,
Instead of just
absolutely.
getting a job and making sure
Absolutely.
making a career and a living.
Yeah. So that was essentially like my early 20s went in that, figuring jobs here. I worked in a production house here for a bit. And then I ended up at FTI, because that's kind of the natural progression. So yeah, that's how I kind of gravitated towards editing.
So someone with your, again, the kind of work that you've done, you've kind of seen most of the mediums, because you started off with like the films and maybe the films, but now you're coming on to like the OTT platforms, web series, and even something down to YouTube content, because you do have a YouTube channel as well that, where you kind of like to give a platform to the invisible artists of the industry, as you call them. So my question to you is, how do you differentiate between the three in terms of your editing style? And also, do you have like a preference, just because each of them come with their own, liberties that you can take based on the medium?
Yeah.
What is your take on that?
That's true. So with feature films as such, there is, I mean, I'd say both feature and series allow you a certain kind of liberty in their own way. With features, of course, there is a restriction of, nowadays particularly, that no one wants to watch something which is extremely elongated. The material really has to hold. So then, you do have to work within a certain duration for one feature film. But that is also, I think, that is slightly fluid. I don't think it's like anyone saying just do, unless it's a OTT platform. Platforms usually say just give us a 2-hour film if it's a web film. For theatricals, you have that little flexibility. But I think both web films and theatrical films come with their own unique advantages, actually. And series, similarly, I think, again, very interesting format, and something a lot of us kind of adapted to over a period of time to understand what series and what works and doesn't work, and episodically, how do you kind of find that correct duration to land at, and rhythmically, your entire show should have like a propulsion, narrative thrust, how to create that across whatever 6-7
I think
episodes.
what really is popular right now is having like a mid-season cliffhanger.
Yes, absolutely.
How do you come to that point in the story as well? Because it's not like, the story is continuing. It's something that you need to kind of, more on a technical aspects, because the script and everything is there, but with the editors and the way it's shot and everything, makes a lot of difference to how the story is taken forward.
It's interesting that you mentioned a mid-season cliffhanger, because I think Indian cinema is very primed to it also, right? With the interval point. So it's kind of that informs that idea of a mid-season cliffhanger as well. So I think there is a lot of give and take between all the formats. For YouTube, since as you mentioned, I have a channel, that is actually a very different beast. And for speaking for myself, I try not to play into the duration aspect of it too much, especially when it comes to, as you mentioned, the invisible artists, because I feel that anyway, they hardly get a chance to talk. Then, if I
give them
the space, because there's one very important factor, there's a lot of nuance to it. And when, if I try to kind of cut that down, you tend to lose nuance in these conversations, right? So that is, I think that's a very free-flowing platform for me to play with. And a lot more control, of course, because I'm doing it all on my own. So,
No. So, I mean, from what you spoke about, I want to understand a little bit about your approach to the different the platforms that we have right now,
Yeah.
the mediums,
Yeah.
as well as how you collaborate with the different departments within a filmmaking production.
yeah.
You know, like the camera team or the director or even the sound people, because it's eventually a team effort and a collaborative thing. Films are not made with one person.
Yeah.
So what is the collaborative process with the rest of the technical side of filmmaking?
Yeah. Actually, with both series and film, theatrical films or web films, the way we work is kind of similar to the extent that the workflow itself would be that, you shoot, you get the transcode, then you kind of start editing, you do the syncing, subclipping. The detail, again, where there is a diversification is if with series, sometimes like with Delhi Crime, we had 3 editors. So there was Manas, Parikshit and myself. We're doing maybe 1 or 2 episodes each. So there it becomes a little more interesting in a sense that because you're also collaborating with other editors. Which was very new to a lot of us because we're used to being so isolated and working on our own. So that part with some series, not all series have multiple editors. But with Delhi Crime, it's been very interesting for us to collaborate as editors. And also sometimes with series now we have 2 directors. I'm doing a series now where I'm the only editor and there are 2 directors. So different kinds of collaborations occur. And with but the workflow pretty much stays the same. Where you're shooting and then you get transcodes and you do the syncing, subclipping. It's then you do your editor's cut, you do the director's cut, do the if there's like a showrunner or producer involved, you do their cut, and then you do the network cut for in case of web. In case of theatricals, it's of course you have all of these happening. You probably don't have a network cut. That's the only difference.
So you mentioned, I'm going a little bit off what we've planned for this podcast, but you mentioned the different cuts.
Yeah.
You know, like a producer's cut, a director's cut, a network or a channel cut or something. What is the difference and how do you kind of come to like a common point between all of them? Because I think that each of them has their own agenda and they're all looking at that one project from very different eyes.
Yeah.
So how does it come? And I'm pretty sure it lands on your table to make sure that everybody's vision is kind of, taken into consideration.
True.
So how does that work?
So honestly, to my experience, it's been very different on different shows. Sometimes and on films as well. Sometimes what the producer or the network wants is very different from what the director wants and versus what the editor wants. In a way, that helps. Because you're able to, there's a creative collision of ideas and sometimes something really amazing comes outside of it. Sometimes it's the absolute opposite because there's that creative collision which is more of a bloody accident. So then that's not great. There are some shows and films I've worked on which have actually, it's like a process of Chinese whispers. Sometimes you can get it really right and sometimes it's just lost in translation, right? So sometimes everyone is strangely on the exact same page, which is also great, can also go horribly wrong because you don't have any control. Or you're not allowing space for any new ideas. Then you're just stuck in that one flow and that one process that you have, an idea that you had. Without any challenges or without breaking that mold and trying something else.
I guess that's the dynamics of the industry and of the medium that we are. Like everybody has their own perspective. So everything can be right or wrong. We never know what hits and misses. That's pretty cool. I think what we'd like to touch upon is in terms of you've been in the industry for so long. What is the main change that you've seen in editing styles from when you started off to now where you are, like you've got access to everything that you would want in terms of the technology and everything. You have your own creative say in it as well. So how do you see the difference between when you started off versus now? And I'll get to the second part of the question.
That. The thing is, in terms of technology, of course, there is a sea change because hardware is also kind of evolving, as is the software. What is not evolving, I would say, is the human aspect of it, because as you were seeing that with the change in format. A lot of variables also change. For instance, we're shooting a lot more now because we're shooting digital and people are less concerned about costs. You can shoot, endlessly versus when you're shooting on film, right? Or on tape for that matter. But now with cards, you're just changing the card, copying it, putting back in. And so I feel like a lot of people haven't really accounted for that change. So I mean, you can have the best of software, you can have the best of hardware, but if the quantum of footage is so much, all other processes kind of have to catch up to that, right? You have to have more time to assemble. You have to have more time to absorb the footage as an editor. And I feel like that is a challenge to convince people, like they'll shoot a lot, but then they'll give you the same time as you got say 20 years back, put together the material, which makes no sense.
And again, what I would like to ask is, with the change, what is the most challenging aspect? And the second part of that question is, what is something that is about the future that you're most excited about, like a change that you see coming? Like we discussed before. Bring it up. AI that is so popular right now, and it's really at its very beginning in the Indian industry. But that is something that is it's going to be very exciting for everybody in this film industry. Because I'd like you to take your take on it, but people feel like, oh, it's going to take away jobs. But actually it's not like it's eventually a machine. You need the human touch to kind of drive it and make it work for you. So what is your take on that?
No, 100%. I'm actually so excited about AI and I don't get the paranoia about it at all, because I feel like there's so much possibility to make and to optimize our time. And actually exactly what I just mentioned, that we're not getting the time to kind of absorb and assemble material. And I'm speaking to a few people now who are kind of trying to find a way to optimize our time and optimize the workflow without people losing their jobs, and exactly doing what you said, that us using AI to improve our workflows. So in fact, Adobe has some great AI tools which I've been trying to get my teams to use as much as possible. And even with my own podcast, I find it so convenient. And it's such a great thing that Premiere Pro is what I edit on. I'm editing my current shows and feature films on. So Adobe Premiere Pro has this amazing, firstly, facility for creators where you can export your YouTube video. You edit it within Premiere Pro, and then you can export it to my YouTube channel directly. So that is something which I loved. And also there's this thing they've introduced called scene cut detection. So for instance, if I'm recording my episode, it's just one, because I'm doing it on Zoom, it's just one long MOB of like an hour or whatever. And the scene cut detection actually identifies the cut point. If there is a change, like a stop, I pause or whatever, and I want to remove that pause, I would have to really scrub through to find where that cut point is, right? And this so this kind of identifies cut points and helps me remove those pauses. That sort of thing has been really interesting to work with.
That's great to see the change in technology also to be able to allow to do that. Otherwise, it's like going through hours and hours of footage to come up with something small. Realize that yahan pe cut hona chahiye.
Exactly.
So, since you're talking about the way that you use Adobe Premiere Pro, what made you switch to Premiere Pro, and how was the experience when you actually switched to your first project working with that? Like, what is that experience like?
So actually, I was working on different software prior to Premiere Pro, and a lot of people kept encouraging me to switch. And I was a bit like, but it's to learn one whole new software all over again. And then I did learn, because on actually Delhi Crime Season 2, I think Manas and Parikshit both were kind of wanting to work on Premiere Pro, and I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's a good opportunity to learn. And then I did, and you kind of understand that every software actually comes with its own set of advantages. And I see why, something like Premiere Pro is a very key sort of tool in today's, the kind of formats that we are working today. It's a very key tool because, for instance, something like they've recently, actually not very recently, maybe a couple of years ago, they've integrated Frame.io into their system. So then we are directly able to again export to Frame.io from within Premiere Pro. And which is a great system because a lot of times we have like directors on shoot who are like, can you send me the lineup?
Yeah.
Like what we shot yesterday, can you send it today? So it's a super fast workflow, to just do like my assistant does a lineup or my associate does a lineup, and it's directly uploaded to Frame.io.
Yeah.
And then, you can put markers, the director can say, maybe not this day, maybe not this shot, and all of that. So I think the very interesting things that Adobe Premiere provides from that perspective. Also, I have to say that nowadays we have to integrate a lot of offline graphics when we're sending it to, as I said, the network or the studio concerned. And we are using extensively, there is a, if you've seen, a lot of shows use these pop-up text messages. And Premiere Pro actually makes it really, really easy to place these offline graphics, to even type in like little text messages or whatever that you have to do on screen. It's very, very easy. So it makes sense actually.
Any specific workflow feature that you particularly like to use, and it's something that is very in tune with your aesthetic as an editor?
I mean, one of the great things I find with the Adobe Premiere Pro is actually the option of having this production, like creating a production, and then within that you have multiple little projects. Because as I mentioned earlier, we are getting so much material that if it's a single project, it's inevitable, and I've struggled with this before, that the project will keep crashing because it's not prepared and not primed to deal with so much data. With this production system, it really breaks down. So you have a separate little project for your sound effects alone, a separate project for your reference music, and a separate project for the rushes. Even that I kind of tend to break down into like episodically. So you have rushes of episode 1, episode 2, episode separately that. So that segregation is really very helpful.
Yeah, I think what it also does is, and something that I would like to wrap up this conversation is how much the technological features that especially the Premiere Pro has, how does it affect your creative aesthetic towards editing a project? It could be a feature film, it could be a web series, it could be a YouTube, one of the podcasts as well. How does that change your creative process? Because eventually, sometimes what we've seen is that people will be like, oh, this technology is also available. It kind of changes the way you think creatively in terms of the project that you're working on. How does that work with you?
I feel like primarily, this is something I think a lot of people will mention, that just the ease of use or, and moving within the project, in a sense, it also democratizes the whole process, because it's not just me, it's even like very young people who are just starting off. Even they can, so if I hire an assistant who doesn't really, know the interface very well, it's very easy to pick up. So, and that informs how, when you're not thinking of the technicalities, is when you can focus on the creatives. So I think that really informs how you work creatively as well.
Yeah, and I think it's a medium where nothing is right or wrong. So everybody's vision is valid.
Yeah.
On a ending note, what is the few tips that you would like to give people who are getting into editing right now, who are seriously seeing it as a career? Because right now, the way media and content is consumed, people do see it as a valid career option.
Yeah.
So what is something that you would like to tell the generation that's starting out maybe?
Yeah. I think, what's very important, of course, is knowing software is one part of it. And I wouldn't necessarily say that there are specific softwares that you need to know, but always treat it like with AI, treat it as a means to an end. That cannot be your primary. A lot of times people are like, oh, I've learned this, and then, then can I assist? That's not what one is necessarily looking for. You are looking for people who are in it for, like a long run. You're not looking for people who just want to come in with a very myopic vision of this being, their choice of career. So I think people who have the determination to really look forward versus just look into the immediate future and just work towards that much. I think that is what is ideal, to have a larger vision, and always have to be, this is something I've said repeatedly, that you have to understand what the film industry really is. It is not a glamorous place. It is a lot of hard work. It's, hours spent in front of the machine, hacking away, trying to kind of put together things. Editing for sure is not the glamorous part of filmmaking. So as long as you have, as I said, that larger vision for yourself and for your future and the way you look at filmmaking, and as well as having a certain commitment, I think that is pretty much a great.
Thank you so much, Antara. That's been a fun chat, and I'd like to also thank Broadcast and Film, thank Adobe and Broadcast India Show for giving us this opportunity to kind of chit chat and see what the future in filmmaking holds.
Yes.
So it's been good fun.
Likewise. Thank you, Pranali.
And stay tuned for more episodes.